Hello, welcome back to my garage. This is a video following up from the tin plugs video and also the vibrating screen. I'm still trying to process the burnt plugs that I showed in my last video. Before we start that, I just want to explain why I'm doing it. In a previous video I gave the yield data for the normal wire, and basically I don't have much experience in weighing in wire, but for these 200 kilograms that I processed, I weighed it in, and as I was weighing it in, I asked a few questions about copper wire and the prices. The lad that was operating the scales explained to me that when you granulate copper and you turn up at a scrapyard to weigh it in, they're going to be a little bit suspicious of what's inside the granules. Did you blend in a lot of tinned plugs or even tinned wire, maybe some brass? They don't count it as 100% pure because they can't see what they're getting. And that is pretty much the same as if you are into ingots. You turn up to a scrapyard with an ingot and they don't know what you've melted down and put in it. So the price that he gave me at the time was £4.50 per kilo in Great British pounds. The price for number one bright, just plain wire, bright wire, was £4.70. So it was cheaper for the granules. That's what made me decide that because they're taking into account that there is some tinned wire and maybe a little bit of brass in the mix of granules, that's what made me decide to start putting the tinned wire and tin plugs in with the normal copper wire granules. That's like an update on that video because I didn't explain myself properly why I was trying to do tin plugs and granulate them. Plus, when I finish with granulating copper, I normally keep it. I don't weigh it in. I save it as an investment. Right, previous video, the burnt plugs. Very difficult to granulate because they were quite chunky. There wasn't any wire mixed in, and it was the granulator found it quite hard to granulate them. Plus the amount of dust and dirt was terrible. So what I've done is I've blended it. I've put in various other things. The main thing that I put in were these. It's where they splice the wires together in the car looms. As you know, I granulate car looms normally. Where they splice the wires, they're quite difficult to granulate because most of them have got tape on and there's a chunk of brass inside, so I always just chuck them in a bucket and left them. To combat the dust, I decided to blend in a bit of tape to bring it down a bit. Plus I've had to wear a mask as well because breathing dust in is no good for anybody. So there was other problems as well. The granulator's been working really hard because the blades aren't the sharpest. They got quite blunt, so it was creating a lot of heat. So I decided to rig this fan up to cool the granulator down. Also, because most of it was solid metal, the metal was flying out the top of the granulator and ending up on the floor, which is no good either. So I had to make a little cowling which stops the wire, the granules from shooting up the chute and coming out the other side and falling on the floor. It was quite a long process to get a setup where you could granulate something like that and do it quite successfully. This is pretty much a one-off because I don't intend burning plugs anymore. I intend just blending them in. I did do a batch. Because there was so much dirt, it was very difficult to keep the water clean, and I did a few trays, but I gave up because the water was too dirty and the end product wasn't that good. It had a lot of dirt in it still. Like I've always said, you need a good water filter and clean water, because when your copper dries like this, it ends up quite dirty and horrible. But it's a good sample to test the vibrating screen. I want to see what this looks like when it's been through the vibrating screen. To combat the amount of dirt in the water, like I said, I blended the plugs, the burnt plugs, with quite a few different things, and this was one of them. I had a good run this summer doing copper motors. A lot of people can't be bothered with copper motors because of the amount of work involved, but I just see the copper and think I'm doing it, because virtually a zero tolerance in weighing things in that's got copper in. I like to get it out. So modifications to the water filter are laying paper kitchen towels on top of the mesh all the way along. I used to have one square of kitchen towel just below the overflow at the tray above, because it stops it from the water from going straight through the mesh. But I've laid kitchen towel across them all and put an extra tray in as well, which is helping a lot to keep the water clean. So now I'm gonna give you a rough idea, showing you granulating this material. It does take quite a long time because it's very difficult, and the granulator is at full stretch, so much so that I even have to turn most of the lights off in the garage to get more power to the granulator. So I'm going to keep bringing you in and out, showing you granulating this material, which also, if I feel like it's getting a bit sticky inside the granulator and it's going to clog up, I've got some turn around so I can see the light. I've got some circuit boards, which is not a good idea in a granulator because it's very abrasive. But while the blades are blunt, and if I need to, I'll just put a few of these in just to dry the mixture out inside the granulator so it goes through the screen better. Now these are circuit boards from cars, from the fuse boxes, and as you can see there's quite a lot of copper inside. This layer of copper on the circuit boards is thicker than normal domestic circuit boards, so it's not just to dry the mixture out inside the granulator, it's all because there's a lot of copper inside, and I'm a bit crazy when it comes to copper. I don't like throwing it away. There's some quite big pieces of copper in, so that's going to be going in the granulator as well. Right, I'm going to set you up and start the granulator going, and just come in and out until we've got a full tray of this. It would take me about an hour to do, but I can't video it all. Okay, see you in a bit. all the copper in the tray, and now I've got to transfer it to the drying tray. So I use a sieve. It helps drain the water off as I'm filling it up. And if I need to bring any copper up and my hands are cold, I've got a little rake. So I come up to this end, put my hand in, just wash it one more time, scoop it out, and it goes in the sieve. As I'm coming back, I might scoop a little bit more up. Try and get as much as possible. And then we go. So I'll come back to you when I fill the sieve up. That's the sieve full of copper. Not much been out of the tray yet. I'm going to take it to the drying tray. Another 2 more to do. Okay, sorry about the light, I forgot to put the light up for the first 2 scoops. That's the 3rd one. Now, it's just a case of smoothing it out. It's not going to look as good if there's not a very good light, but there's nothing I can do. I have to wait for that to dry because it always looks dark and dull before it dries. Smooth it out. It's just the mesh trays, same as the water filter. It's covered in kitchen towel, which helps draw the water out of the bottom. Something like that. So that's one tray finished. I've already done a few. I think I've got about 6 and maybe another 4 to go before they go to the drying room. Just show you the tissue hanging over the edge. That takes advantage of something called capillary action. It's like siphoning water. It drags the water out of the tray and drains it off. So off to the drying room when I've done another 4. Well, that was a struggle, but no more circuit boards in that box left. No more burnt plugs, all done. And no more motor windings, so everything's finished. It's been quite a struggle, but eventually it got finished and done. The blades took quite a bit of hammering and they're even more blunt now. There's about a 1mm gap between the 2 blades on the front and about 0.5mm gap on the back. That's probably down to the abrasiveness of the circuit boards, but they really do need a sharpening now. The cowling did really well. That was a real help, stopping the granules from flying out the top of the chute. This is, I've mentioned this in comments before and answers. The problem with doing kind of solid metal, you can call it solid metal with the plugs and the motor windings and even the copper out of the circuit boards. The copper tends to go into flakes instead of small pieces, and it takes quite a long time for it to chop up, especially if the blades get blunt. And what happens is it blocks the screen up. So even if it was slow granulating before at the start, it gets even slower as the screen gets blocked up. So you have to spend time unblocking that. I think I did it about halfway through, and that's the result of granulating half of the material. Screen's probably 30% blocked up. Right, the water filter had to be changed 3 times and cleaned 3 times, so that really kept the water clean, but by the end it was getting quite dirty. So there we have it, 10 trays, large trays of copper and 10 small trays, which is not bad out of things that you would normally throw away, such as circuit boards and plugs. Then I have the motor windings as well, so a good result for me. And next job is to refine it even more and try and get some of these big chunks of brass and what have you out of the mix and make it a lot cleaner, which is going to be down to the vibrating screen. And I have done quite a few modifications on the vibrating screen, so I'm looking forward to that, seeing what happens. Right, I think this video is long enough, and I'll have to make the vibrating screen part 2 of this video. So thank you for watching, and if you like what you've seen so far, please give me a thumbs up.